And we will get started. Awesome. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the third annual Engineering Alumni Majors Panel. My name is Katie Wiley, and I'm the Engineering Career Coach in the Center for Career Development and Academic Exploration. I'll be your host tonight as we interview these wonderful panelists that we have here. We have 5 for this panel tonight. And if you will join me tonight, joining me tonight are many familiar faces from the college itself for our students, and I would like to extend a huge thank you to our Tickle College of Engineering, our Engineering Fundamentals, Engage LLC, and Dr. Amy Bogalski for helping me make tonight possible. And before we begin, Ashley, will you just one more time mention that raffle for us?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Ashley Durstdaler. I am a junior studying biomedical engineering. I am also one of the head mentors for the Engage LLC. Tonight we're raffling off 3 prizes. I will put a link to the Google form at the end of the panel. That way you guys can pay attention to the panel and engage with those who are here with us. I will also be emailing the 3 winners tonight after the event. Other than that, I also have 3 members of my team also here, Michaela, Jeremiah, and Jonathan. Can you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves real quick?
Hi, my name is Jeremiah Pham, and I am a junior in civil engineering.
And my name is Jonathan Dunaway, and I am a senior in biomedical engineering.
And I'm not sure if Michaela is with us, but she is also a sophomore and studying chemical engineering.
Awesome. Thank you all for coming tonight. We're going to get this panel started. Again, tonight we have 5 panelists. I think I only see 4. Kavanaugh, are you here on this meeting tonight? Okay, I don't hear anything from Kavanaugh, but he may be coming in a little bit later and we'll loop him in then. So right now we have 4 wonderful panelists, and I would like you all to introduce yourselves. So if we could start with your name, your area of study, your job title, the company you work for, and just a brief overview of your job. And I'll call out your name for simplicity's sake. So Jess, will you start this question, please? Oh, I saw her before. Jess, are you still here? Okay, we'll skip Jess for a second. Maybe she got cut off here. Oh, Jess, there you are.
Hi, yes, I'm here. I'm sorry, I got disconnected.
Will you start off by telling us your name, your area of study, your job title, the company you work for, and a brief overview of your job?
Sure. So my name is Jess Osira. I am a graduate from the from the Department of Chemical Engineering. My job title right now is a capital project manager. I work for a large global Fortune 500 beverage company. If you want to know more details, you can look on my LinkedIn. And a brief overview of my job. So my job is to do any capital projects that happen across any of our 9 North American sites. So we have sites in the Caribbean, in North America across maybe 5 states, and then we also have 3 or 4 sites in Canada as well. So basically anytime a site needs new large equipment, management of change, that's going to cost a lot of money. I handle the project management side of that. So I manage the conception of the solution, the budget, and then basically overseeing the contractors as the project gets installed.
Thank you so much. Jay, will you go next?
Hey, my name is Jay Dale. I graduated from the Department of Nuclear Engineering a couple years ago. I work for Exelon Generation. We're the largest nuclear power operator in North America. I work as a qualified nuclear engineer, and yeah, my degree was Bachelor of Science, so I did not get a master's, just a BS degree in 4 years from UTNE. Thanks.
Thank you. Amanda Randolph, will you go next, please?
Yes. So as she said, my name is Amanda Randolph. I have a bachelor's in biomedical engineering from the University of Tennessee. I also have a master's in prosthetics and orthotics from Northwestern University. And so right now I'm actually an orthotic resident. So because my master's degree is part of a medical school at Northwestern, I have to do residency kind of like doctors because I'm on the clinical track to become a certified prosthetist orthotist. So basically what that means is, so think about amputees. So you see amputees have prosthetic legs. Well, where do these legs come from? Well, they come from people like me. And so where I work at a prosthetic orthotic clinic here in Macon, Georgia called Hyde Prosthetics and Orthotics. And so I'm the clinician that amputees come to, and we do all their casting and fitting and fabricating of their legs, but also we do orthotics. So say if someone had a stroke and they are like paralyzed on like half of their body, which is usually what happens. For example, they can't pick their toes up. And so we make orthotics to help with that. I'm actually working with pediatrics. So for example, I see a lot of kids with cerebral palsy, and they have a lot of things going on with them. We see a lot of kids with all kinds of different neurological disorders, and we make orthotics like this one, it's a little one, and it just kind of helps our kids with their gait and things like that. We also make hand orthoses, or if people have scoliosis, we make the scoliosis braces, and we also do cranial helmets. So this is for like a little baby if they have like a head deformity. So that's kind of some of the things that I do. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Amanda. I love the show and tell. It's fun. Eli, will you go next?
Yeah. So my name is Eli Darby. I graduated this past May with a degree in material science from the Tickle College of Engineering. And I just started at General Motors actually as a track engineer. So that's their technical rotation and career knowledge program. So basically you do 6 months in 4 different positions. And my current position is working in the propulsion development laboratories as a chemical analyst. So I take a lot of different samples with like fuels and oils that have come from engine testing and analyze those.
Fantastic. Thank you, Eli. Kavanaugh, I saw you just come in. Right now we're talking about just your intro. So your name, your area of study, your job title, your company, and a brief overview of your job.
Okay, I'm Kavanaugh Mims. I'm a nuclear engineer graduate, 1986. I've worked for people like TVA, Department of Energy, ran my own business for 20 years, sold it recently. Back doing some consulting now. So I do most of strategic planning for disposition of legacy waste and nuclear materials around the world. Design packaging and transport systems and that kind of stuff. I'm also the new chairman of the advisory board for the College of Engineering. So obviously they didn't look at my GPA when they gave me that job. What else? That everything?
I think you got it.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So we're going to go into our first question here. So if you could tell us a little bit more about your background. How did you get into the position that you are in today, and why did you choose that field of engineering? And Jess, we'll start with you again.
Okay, so I actually just started this company last year, about 6 months ago. I started actually when I first graduated as a product development engineer, and that's where I first got some project management experience, where I was actually concepting ideas and solutions for clients, determining pathways to either manufacturing or implementation of that solution, and then actually following that project all the way through to completion. So that was really my first exposure into project management, and I really fell in love with the kind of big scope of it and working with really dynamic and diverse teams and having a lot of sight view on different areas of the company. So in the smaller company, it was really interesting because we all worked really closely and kind of the whole company worked together on one project, where now I work for a Fortune 500 company. So it's a lot of navigating through different departments and finding out who I need to talk to about each different area of the business. So I really enjoy in the larger company being able to see that sight view on on the finance department, logistics, the actual construction management, the engineers that are on site. I think it's interesting to get that broad scope and perspective that's different than other engineering roles that you could have at a site. So yeah, that's why I chose it.
Thank you so much. Jay, do you want to go next?
Yeah, kind of a funny story why I chose nuclear. So my roommate, freshman year, he was a nuclear engineering major, and I started as chemical. And I had taken these classes in high school that kind of put me in a higher level of chemistry classes when I started. I was unprepared, so going into organic chemistry as a first year freshman, it was just not going to happen. And I ended up switching to nuclear. I wanted to be in the energy field, and nuclear energy always piqued my interest. And knowing that it's carbon free, and despite its CR types, it's actually really safe. And I just ran with it, and I really loved the curriculum here at UT. There's a lot of lab experiences. The professors and faculty were really nice. And I ended up getting my internship through one of those connections that I made with the professor. So I did undergrad research, and he had some connections with the industry, and I ended up interviewing and accepting an internship at Exelon, the corporate headquarters in Chicago. Once I had completed that internship, it was kind of an interview for myself and also the company. The internship goes both ways, right? I know everybody's worried about getting a job, but make sure that you actually like the company as well. That makes everybody's lives easier. And it ended up working out, and I wanted to be at a site, AKA a nuclear power plant. Wanted that experience, being able to go up on the refuel floor and, walking around, looking at the fuel storage and things like that. And then I never really did a co-op after my internship. I just straight hired on as full-time and went through a pretty rigorous training process. That was internal training, and what we go through is called a qualification process. At the end, you go through a board certification. It's sort of modeled after the nuclear Navy, not as rigorous, but that training process kind of mimics the idea of you being able to perform the task independently without any assistance. So that kind of that process also keeps you engaged, and I was able to stay interested in the subject. And I think that my position as a boiling water reactor nuclear engineer is about as relatable to a nuclear engineering degree at the bachelor's of science level that I can think of, because it's very practical. Everything you learn in school is applicable to my job on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, that's how I got where I am.
Thank you so much, Jay. Amanda, will you go next?
Yes, KP. So I actually was an out-of-state student, and I came to UT from Georgia with the academic common market. And so kind of the way I got to Tennessee was I was able to get in-state tuition. And so I was like, okay, I'm going for biomed, but I can't change my major. But I had always liked prosthetics. And I know that's probably what most of y'all, if you're thinking about biomedical engineering, you're thinking, I want to do prosthetics, because that's what a lot of y'all say. And I can say this because I was an ambassador for the College of Engineering for 3 years. So I had seen a lot of students come through. And I was also an RA for the engineering living learning community. Katie actually was one of our hall directors at the time. And so how I got to where I was, I mean, she can probably attest to this. I was biomed the whole way, but I flipped around a lot with concentrations or what I wanted to do. But I knew I wanted to do prosthetics, and I knew I wanted to work with veterans, which is what also a lot of people say. They're like, I want to work with prosthetics, I want to work with veterans. But the hard thing is I knew I wanted to work with patients. And so I knew I didn't want to be in research and development, because that's just not what I wanted to do. Because for a long time, I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon. And I wanted to find that middle ground of prosthetics and patients, and how do I do that? But a lot of people I asked, they didn't know what that was. It's called a certified prosthetist orthotist. And it wasn't until the unfortunate event of my mom's boss and his wife were in an accident, and his wife lost her leg in the accident. And so when she lost her leg, I found this company called Hanger, and they're one of the largest prosthetic orthotic companies in the US. And so through them, I found out what a certified prosthetist orthotist was. And that's when I found out I had to go to grad school, which is what led me to Northwestern to get my master's. And then that's when we led to residency, because you're not done yet after you go to school. You have to do residency for 2 years, or there is a quicker 18-month program that you can do. But I chose that because originally I wanted to work with veterans and I wanted to make legs, and that's what I wanted to do. Now I work with kids. I actually barely see adults, and it's really exciting. And as much as I was like, I want to do veterans, like I probably think I'm going to stick with kids, because kids, there are a lot of kids that have a lot of gait deviations that we might not think about when you think about this field. A lot of people just think arms and legs are cool, which they are, and I'm really excited to do prosthetics. But that's kind of that whole journey to get to where I am now.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And if you want to see an engineer at work and having fun at the same time, follow Amanda on TikTok.
I made one yesterday of me modifying in the lab. So yeah, I'm in there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amanda. Eli, will you speak to your experience, please?
Yeah. So I was really kind of all over the place. Going into undergrad, I knew I wanted to do material science, but I didn't necessarily know the applications of material science. And I kind of had a loose idea that I wanted to do R&D, so research and development. But I pretty quickly had a research position the summer after my freshman year. And it was not, I mean, it was really cool. I went to a national lab. I did a lot of interesting things, but I realized that it was a little, maybe like too in the weeds for me. So then I had an internship the next summer in manufacturing. And it was the same kind of deal where it was like, okay, well, this is interesting, but maybe not exactly for me. And then I actually worked with Jess the summer after that. So I had an internship with American Accessories International, and we did some cool manufacturing and product development work. And I found that I definitely gravitated towards the product development side. And so I kind of knew that's what I was looking for in a full-time position. And so I ended up applying online with GM and getting the position. But I guess I would say all of that just to emphasize the point that, you know, there's no shame in trying something and finding out you don't like it and then trying something else, you know, because I think we really learn through trial and error. And so that's one of the best ways to kind of find what is your best fit for a career.
Thank you so much, Eli. Kavanaugh, will you speak to your experience, please?
Yes. Much like I started out like Jay, I chose nuclear because I wanted to get into power plant operations. So my first job interning cooperating was at a boiling water reactor. And so I really loved it. I worked in the refuel floor. I got to be a supervisor at a really, really early age because I co-opted. And so I had 2 years of experience walking in the doors as an engineer. So I went back to the same desk, the same thing that I'd been doing before as an intern in a co-op. So I did that for 4 or 5 years. And I really decided I liked program management. We were going through a major outage. And so I got to plan upgrading systems, designing systems, and working with the people on the floor, installing them. So I really liked project management. So I left there and applied for the Department of Energy. So I went there, went to restart one of the experimental reactors they had that was coming out of an outage. And I got to do a lot of program management work, and I just loved it. Then that led to doing the work. A new thing to us then in DOE was environmental cleanup. So that was the newest thing that the Department of Energy was going through, and to clean up all the Cold War legacies all over the country. So I spent the last 25 years, I guess, doing environmental cleanup. So I've worked with in Ukraine and Russia and Japan, Australia, and various projects and various people all over the world, literally, cleaning up stuff, like I said, designing, packaging, transporting things, moving things safely, Spent a lot of time working for the Department of Energy, working on Yucca Mountains and designing spent nuclear fuel systems and safe storage systems, looking at new materials for safe. If you're designing something that's going to last 10,000 years, that takes a minute. So looking at the packaging and systems for safe storage of cleaning up a lot of the legacies we have for nuclear stuff from nuclear power plants. So, and I still do that to this day. So.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kavanaugh. Our next question is, what's one tip you wish you got while you were still in school? So hindsight's 2020, right? So if you had to go back and tell yourself one thing that would have helped you in your first big kid job after school, what would that thing be? And again, we'll start with Jess.
Okay, that's a good question. So when I was in school, I think what I would have liked to know is all the resources that are available that can help connect you to alumni who can help connect you to different jobs. So there's a lot of events and opportunities that the College of Engineering and the university put on that are really awesome networking experiences where you wouldn't believe the alumni who show up and what kind of awesome careers that they have and how you get this sort of VIP one-on-one time with them. One of them I can say for sure changed my life, really, literally, was Vault-to-Vol. The Vault-to-Vol engineering networking event that I did got me my first job out of college, like on the spot almost. So that was an experience that I didn't know about till senior year, where I could have been networking and doing these events and opportunities a lot sooner. And that also helps you in your career because you need to be able to talk to all different types of engineers, business people, even legal. So being able to communicate across different disciplines with different types of people with different and varying understanding of the technical information you're trying to share with them is really important to practice. And when you live in the College of Engineering and you're surrounded by engineers, you tend to start speaking in your engineering language as your primary language. And it's something you kind of have to unlearn once you start talking to the broader company stakeholders, basically. So I think those networking events are dual purpose in helping train you to learn how to be articulate and to speak and to really learn how to network and speak to anyone. And then also for that opportunity to get a leg up on internships, co-ops, and job opportunities.
Thank you so much, Jess. And yeah, as I put in the chat here, we have plans to do the Engineering Board of Advisors Vault-to-Vol in the spring of this year, and you may see Kavanaugh there maybe. Awesome. So I'm going to ask Jay to go next, please.
I will be there.
So one thing that I can speak to was I always had a question when I was in undergrad, whether or not to join a larger company or a smaller company as your first step out of school. Now, I don't have a lot of experience in smaller companies, so I can speak, in terms of the Fortune 100 side of things. There are definitely benefits. One example that I will share is during my internship search, so when I was still a junior and sophomore in college, I had a really tough time getting my resume through and getting through to recruiters. But what happened after I had my Exelon internship was that even though it was just an internship with a large company, that opened a lot of doors. Not just opened the door to get into Exelon, but also I started getting interviews at all the other places that originally I had wanted to join, but I didn't get past either the screening stage or the interview stage. But what I found out was having that large, well-recognized organization on your resume can actually help you to achieve what your ultimate goal is, whether that be, independent, if you want to start your own company, or if you want to, eventually go into a more niche area, it can actually help you in the long run. So that's some of the benefits that I think it's important to kind of consider as you look forward to, joining the workplace. Even if you don't plan on staying here forever, there's a lot of opportunities in a lot of different multidisciplinary teams that you can join. And those opportunities are pretty good to capitalize on.
That's great advice, Jay. And yeah, as the engineering career coach, I get that question all the time too. And also, I get the question, is GPA more important or is getting experience more important? And well, it's really both. You really should be getting experience while trying to maintain good grades. But I have employers all the time tell me they would rather have somebody who has experience on their resume than someone who just has a 4.0 and no experience. So that experience is really important. Thank you for speaking to that. Amanda, you are next.
Yes. Real quick, because I know KP mentioned my TikTok. I was going to show you guys this for the side-by-side of like a bigger kid and a little kid. I don't have it with me, but if you can kind of see, that was like a little kid that I casted versus a big one. And so those are different things that we do, which is on my Instagram and my company. So if you want to keep up with what's going on in OMP, you can follow like me or my company. It's kind of fun because you get the behind the scenes that people don't show about. But something that I wish that the tip I got, and now Katie probably told me this, I probably just didn't listen because I was a college student. I would say don't be afraid to ask questions and don't be afraid of having to be perfect all the time. Because let me tell you a secret. If you get an 80 on a test versus 100, you're going to learn way more by getting that 80 than if you got 100, because you're going to know where you need to improve on and what you need to do better on. Because if you get 100, you'll be like, oh, okay. And then you're not going to look back at it. For my first big kid job, I'll be honest, this is my first one, my residency, because I graduated from Tennessee May of 2018, and I started my graduate degree July of 2018. So I didn't have a time, and I didn't do any co-ops or internships. Well, I worked as a prosthetic orthotic technician assistant over the summer. So I guess I did do that. But I'm like, even when I'm working on my kids and stuff now, I'm afraid of messing up. But honestly, that's what's going to make me a better practitioner, is if I mess up, because then I can fix it. And that's also the secret. Pretty much anything can be fixed. So if you do mess up, don't worry, you can probably fix it, but don't be afraid to ask questions, because I guarantee you your mentors, they want you to ask questions and they want to be there for you. So don't feel like you can't ask, because my mentor actually went down sick today. So I'm the only practitioner in the office for the next 2 weeks. And I'm like, man, I wish I asked you more questions. I mean, we have FaceTime, but don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't be afraid to be perfect. Like, you don't have to be perfect. It's going to be okay. And pretty much everything can be redone and fixed. And I promise you're going to learn a lot more. Oh, real quick, just because I know Jay, I think it was, mentioned not working for a small company. I work for a family-owned company. And like I said, I'm the only practitioner in the office. We have 2. So if you want to know more about small businesses, you can email me or we can talk about that later. So there's literally 5 of us in the office.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amanda. Eli, will you speak to a tip you wish you got while you were in school?
Yeah. So definitely my first tip, just kind of stole it, but the one I always give is, you have a tremendous amount of resources on the University of Tennessee's campus that are designed to get you a job. So the biggest thing you can do, I think, when you're an undergrad is leverage those resources, whether it's networking events or career fairs or the resume workshops and things like that. There's so many different things that are designed to get you a good position in the field of your dreams. So I would say definitely make sure that you aren't underutilizing those resources, but just already kind of spoke to that. So I'll also say that another one is, don't treat positions or like different activities or clubs you're involved in as just as resume boosters. I think a lot of times there's a propensity for people to kind of pick up as many things as they can. But I think a lot of times, I mean, a resume, A, can only be a page long. So if you have too much stuff, eventually you're going to have to start clipping it. And B, a lot of times quality experience shines through better than a lot of experience. Because at the end of the day, the resume gets you the interview, but in the interview, you're going to have to talk about that experience. Also, I mean, like, even in my job now, I'm finding that I'm using skills I learned as a freshman in my research laboratory, that if you told me I was going to be working for General Motors using stuff that I learned in a material science lab, I wouldn't have thought that. So just take everything you do seriously and try and get involved in some quality activities while you're in school.
That's great advice. Thank you, Eli. Kavanaugh, will you speak to a tip you wish you got?
Pay more attention to business. As engineers, we have a tendency to take a look care of the technical things, but as you move past your first couple of jobs, past first level supervision, everything comes about business. I spend more time with lawyers, accountants, and those folks than I ever do engineering. Every now and then I sneak and do a project on a weekend just for the fun of it. But as you move up in your career, especially toward the C-suites, it's all about business. It's economics, it's forecasting, it's finance, it's all those other things. And I think it's fun being, so a lot of times being the only engineer in the room, it's fun to me because I can approximate things and solve problems that they need a number and they have a problem with abstract concepts. And they're very matter of fact and very black and white, and their imaginations are small. And so to me, being the only engineer in the room, it's fun. I can figure out things, solve things, look at things totally different from a different perspective. But as you grow in business and in your career, you're going to spend more time about business than you do the technical aspects. Other people handle the technical aspects of the day-to-day stuff. And if that's something you want to do, which I did like to do, I wish I'd learned that earlier, and spent more time. The other thing is take advantage of all the things university has to offer. Use electives wisely. Take some in business, take some in finance, take some, it could be photography, but there's all kinds of things that the university has is there, and you just generally don't, you paid for them. Once you get past your core hours, everything else is free. You can audit classes, you can do whatever. Maximize whatever you want to learn that the university has to offer, be in your major, in your field, so you become the most well-rounded person that you need to be and the most valuable person to an organization.
So true. And I think this is a good time to maybe plug the business administration minor or even the integrated business and engineering program that we have here at the university. Thank you so much, Kavanaugh. That was great advice. Okay, let's go to what's your favorite and least favorite part of your current role? And Jess, we'll have you start.
All right. So my favorite things about my current role, I kind of mentioned it earlier, and I'm gonna, it's perfect segue, Kavanaugh, because the business perspective is something I just really didn't pay attention to in school. That is absolutely at the root of every single decision that a company is going to make if they want to continue to be able to do what they're doing. So having that scope and understanding how your decisions impact other areas of the business and what the drivers are for the other stakeholders who have to agree, because you can't just go do things without aligning large groups of people, and everyone has a stake in what it is that you're working on. So being able to understand how you're going to impact them, communicate that to them, and get them to be on board with your project is really important. And it's something that I really love doing, like getting all those people together, talking through things, working through problems, being challenged, not having everyone just be like, that's a great idea, let's do it, but actually being challenged and push my technical ability to communicate and making sure that my drivers are the important drivers to be looking at, and that I'm thinking through all of those things. That's really what I love about this role, is the collaborative nature of it. My least favorite part of the role, well, right now it's difficult because my role should be a lot of traveling. I should be going to the sites. So right now what I really don't like is that I can't go to any of my sites and I have to do everything remotely. So that's been a challenge and something I've not been a huge fan of. But a more permanent thing that I don't like about my role is possibly the pace. So it can move really quickly, and then you spend like a month waiting on other answers, and then really, really fast and another, 2 months waiting on answers. Or when the government gets involved, it can be years waiting on answers. So learning how to like manage your time, manage your workload, and be able to start feeling the pace of different projects so you can balance all of them and kind of coordinate how you're going to attack each one is an area that I had a lot of challenges with at first that I've learned a lot of good management skills with over the last 2 years.
Awesome. Jay, will you speak to your favorite and your least favorite part of the role? And also, this may be the world's cutest panel member here on your
I
left.
apologize. We got him yesterday, and he is just getting used to the house, so I have to keep him in my lap. I would say that my favorite part of my job would definitely have to be being able to plan something using engineering judgment and my education and the skill that I have accumulated. And also seeing that plan executed, being there, right, and assisting the operations crew in essentially being able to see your product all the way through to the end. So I'll give you an example. I get to plan control rod movements that change how a nuclear reactor outputs, power, and that has a real effect on the grid, how much power we're making, et cetera. And not only do I get to use, say, computer modeling and things like that to plan the maneuver, I also get to be there to actually see it through. And if there are any sort of issues, and unfortunately there sometimes are, I will be the first person there to actually troubleshoot and able to facilitate some sort of contingency actions to make sure that we're still operating the reactors safely. And that's actually something that I really enjoy doing. And it's kind of unlocked a side of my career where I didn't think I was interested in, which is in plant operations. And I'm more interested in doing something like that where it's more hands-on because of that experience. I would say the downside is actually probably the nuclear industry, the nuclear power industry, the current state of it, given our, I don't want to say political atmosphere, but basically how the general public reacts to nuclear energy. The overall state of the industry is in decline. And I think that's a major loss to our goal in fighting climate change and making sure that we meet our Paris Agreement carbon reduction goals. I think working, at least at Exelon, which is, not to go into too much detail, but we're in a competitive electric power market. Unlike TVA or some of the southern electric companies, we actually compete directly against, say, wind energy or coal or natural gas in our energy prices. And when the market fluctuates, our energy, which is pretty fixed cost, actually doesn't scale that well. So we're going through some financial difficulties as an industry, and that is something that's it's a negative side. It's, on the day-to-day, it doesn't impact us a lot, but long-term, looking out 10, 15, 20 years down the line, the industry just doesn't look as bright as it did maybe 15 years ago.
Thank you so much, Jay. Amanda, will you go next, please?
Yeah, so I would say my favorite part of my job when it comes to prosthetic side, I like talking to the amputees and our patients and learning and hearing about their story. Some of them have very interesting stories. Some of them have like sad stories, but they're one thing that a lot of amputees have told me, there's like, I don't want to be looked at as an inspiration. And so I just like getting to like meet those people on the orthotic side of things, because I can really only talk to kids because I've like speak on behalf of kids because that's what I work with. A lot of my children that I work with, they're nonverbal. And so sometimes people might get frustrated. You're like, how do I work with you if you can't talk to me and you can't tell me what's wrong? But you kind of learn them, and their parents are there as well. But it's something as like, so these two orthotics that I have here, they're the same type of brace, but they have different designs. So you see this one's taller. This is considered a toe walking extension. So a lot of kids will like walk on their tiptoes and they just can't walk on their flat feet, but they'll go from walking on their tiptoes. If you put this on them and shoes, you'll see them walk flat immediately. And so it's just amazing what something as simple as a piece of plastic and some straps can do. And we put cute designs on them. So that's the favorite part, and the kids are really cute. And then my least favorite part, it's not the business side, because I actually enjoy, you hear horror stories about working with insurance. I actually enjoy that, but my least favorite part is when insurance denies something and then you have to tell the family, just because then some families aren't in a financial situation where they can pay out of pocket. And so you have to have those hard conversations. So that's probably my least favorite thing.
Thank you so much. Eli?
Yeah, so I would like to go back to a point that Kavanaugh and I guess Jess made as well. With the business side of things, I think that's so important. And when I was an undergrad, I was in the Heath Integrated Business and Engineering program. And not only does that give you a lot of business skills and acumen, but it also is a great networking tool. So I know that's not what the question was about, but I felt like I should plug that really quickly. And then also, so my favorite part of work, and it's not maybe as substantive as what the other representatives were saying, but I don't know, it's just really cool, honestly. Like, I mean, like as a kid, I was into like science and sci-fi and stuff like that, and cars. And it's like every day, like I'll just walk past a room and there'll be like a giant like V8 engine block or something, or like a brand new mid-engine Corvette will pull up at work, you know, and like you get to see all these prototype designs that people are working on. And so, and a lot of, I mean, it's like kind of like a nerd's dream to a certain extent, you know, you get to see all this really cool stuff. And so that's probably my favorite part of work. And then least favorite part of work is just with like working for a bigger company, maybe one of the disadvantages, there is a lot more training and bureaucracy, and I think things to just get up to speed with when you're in a bigger corporation like GM. So that would probably be one of the downsides of that.
Thank you so much, Eli. Kavanaugh, will you speak to your favorite and least favorite part, please?
Favorite would be, I have two favorites. One is dealing with the public. You will find I had an opportunity, especially with Department of Energy. Most scientific people don't like generally dealing with the general public and explaining things or answering questions and those kind of things. So I had an advisory board that I had to deal with, that I was responsible for, and I loved that. It was fun. Because you had an engaged audience, and they were there because they cared. They weren't getting paid to be there. And you treat them with some dignity and respect. And sometimes things that are somewhat complicated can be explained fairly simply. We just like to talk about it complicated because it makes us feel good. So that was kind of fun. I enjoyed that. My other favorite thing is doing things that have never been done before. I've been blessed in my career to innovatively figure out when people will come and say, we don't know how to X, or we've never done this before. I get happy. That means I get to have fun. Because I need to come up with something that's new and innovative, and kind of the gloves are off, and I'm not following a cookie cutter pattern. Gets boring to me. If we've been there, done it, then why am I here? So I like doing things that have been done. My least thing is supervising people. People can be a pain. When you've got their problems, their issues, their whatever at home, their whatever that you got to deal with, which may or may not be related to what you're doing physically at work, but you got to deal with that person. And you got to figure out how to meet them where they are, get them past whatever they're dealing with, and get done whatever needs to get done. So you're sometimes coach, sometimes counselor, sometimes best friend, shoulder to cry on. It's like, I didn't sign up for all this. But you have to learn how to do that. And it makes you have to be somewhat vulnerable to them too as well. So that's not my favorite thing to do. Done it for 40 years, so you get kind of good at it. But the personnel aspect sometimes can be a pain.
Thank you so much. It is 8 o'clock, so if anyone needs to jump off, please feel free, including our panelists. If any of you have other commitments, please feel free to jump off. But I do want to ask really quickly what opportunities that your company provides for internships and co-ops for some of these students that may be interested. If you have to hop off, feel free to hop off whenever you please. Jess,
Okay.
do you have some time to talk about that?
Sure, I can talk about that. Okay, so my company, you have to be over 21 to work at it in any position. So if you would like to come work for the company that I work for, just keep that in mind. But we do have internships. We have internships that, as long as you're over 21, you can do while you're in school, that are a year long. We also have internships for post-bac. So after you graduate, you can do a year-long technical internship. And then we have the program that I'm a part of, which is our leadership development program, which is a 3-year rotational program. After graduation, you're hired on as a fully, salaried, benefited employee. You do 3 rotations in 3 years at 3 of the different North American sites in 3 different roles. They fall within technical, engineering, supply chain, and kind of a marketing in between there, so more innovation and development. So if you're interested in that rotational program, you're welcome to reach out to me to see what kind of steps you might want to take throughout your undergraduate career to get into a program like that after graduating. But yeah, so over 21, we have internships for both during school, after you graduate, and then the rotational program for after graduation.
Thank you so much, Jess. Jay, can you speak to any internships or co-ops your company may have?
Yeah, as far as I know, Exelon Nuclear, which is the division for nuclear energy for Exelon Generation, does not offer co-ops, but we do have a pretty big internship program. I want to stress that it's a nuclear power plant, but we only have about 5 nuclear engineers, where we have perhaps maybe 100 engineers on site. We actually have a lot more mechanical, electrical, civil personnel here, because there's just a lot of systems that require very innovative approach to how to maintain them and how to upgrade and make sure they operate safely. So, for those of you that are majoring in a field that's not nuclear engineering specifically, keep in mind that even though these nuclear power plants were built in the 60s and 70s, it doesn't mean that we don't have new technology that goes into them. So this isn't like your car that gets worse every year. In fact, our reliability have never been better since when these plants were brand new. As in terms of innovation, from what I hear, we're going to have operators with augmented reality goggles. They're going to go into the plant, and then they're going to have briefs with like picture-in-picture, motion capture and stuff like that. So there's a lot of exciting opportunities. That's just not that's not only at the site level, but just we're working really on the cutting edge here with a lot of our programs. For internships, I know the Generation company does a summer internship program, but I do also understand that the utility side, which is, for those of you that are familiar, like say Knoxville has Knoxville Board and Electric, right? And then that company is the utility company that has the trucks that fix the wires for you. But they end up purchasing power from, I believe, TVA, which generates the power. So Exelon, in that sense, has a generation wing and also a delivery transmission side. So that transmission side represents over half of our business, and then they have many different types of engineering positions as well as business internships that they do every summer as well. So I encourage you to definitely look into that. It is a Fortune 100 company. There are a lot of benefits for bigger companies, like others have said. There are definitely some drawbacks with a larger organization, but there are a lot of opportunities available, not just in nuclear. If you are, however, specifically interested in nuclear engineering, feel free to reach out to me via LinkedIn. We are currently looking at a external hiring freeze at the current moment because of the economic situation. However, that is not expected to be permanent, and we are looking at, like downstream, what it looks like to have new interns come in, because generally speaking, where I am, full-time hires are almost, like I will say 95% internship hires. We very rarely hire people directly out of school. And most of the time when we do that, it's because they have a PhD or master's that we actually are looking for. But yeah, definitely let me know if you have any questions. I do have to hop off. The dog is asleep, so I gotta put him away.
Thanks, Jay. Amanda, will you talk to any internships or co-ops that you know of?
Yeah, so I can't really speak on behalf of my company because we only have 2 clinics, and like between both clinics we have like 4 practitioners. But something that I can say, and because mine you have to have a master's in prosthetics and orthotics, which is only in 11 schools in the US. If you want the link to that, I can put it in the chat for the website. But I would say if it's something that you're interested in, specifically prosthetics and orthotics, look at clinics in your area. Maybe you're an out-of-state student, look back home, look in Knoxville. Actually, Knoxville is the headquarters for the Amputee Coalition. Look to see if you can shadow. So I would recommend shadowing because they don't do quote internships and co-ops because you're working with patients. And in order to work with patients, you have to go through the master's program and then the residency program and take your board exams. But clinics will let you shadow. So whether that be shadowing your practitioner or shadowing a technician, which is where I started shadowing a technician. And in order to be a good practitioner, in my opinion, you need to be able to be a good technician. So that would be my recommendation, is to look at clinics in your area, wherever that may be, and see about shadowing if prosthetics and orthotics is what you want to go into.
Thanks, Amanda. Eli, will you talk a little bit about GM's internships and co-ops?
Yeah, so I didn't intern with GM, but I know they have an internship program. So I think it's the Excel internship program, and that would put you up in the like southeastern Michigan area, which is where most of the design and development occurs. That's basically Detroit. And then I also know that the Spring Hill manufacturing plant comes and recruits from the career or the engineering expo. So that's another kind of gateway into the company. I would say GM takes just about everyone. So pretty much any discipline of engineer. I know we even hire doctors and lawyers and, finance majors. We cover basically all the business disciplines as well. So it's a huge company. So we definitely need all different disciplines, especially I know there's been a big push lately too for CS and electrical engineering. So I don't know if those majors are on the call at this point, but point is apply and we probably have a position for you. And even within the company, if you're like, oh, I don't like cars, like you can work on just about anything at GM. So you can do, much more research and development oriented technology. So we do a lot of work with batteries and fuel cells, more energy storage stuff, and then just playing like material science, metallurgy, and chemistry and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely apply. There's lots of opportunities, and feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn if you're interested and want to talk more.
Thank you so much. I think Kavanaugh had to hop off at 8 o'clock, but he is the president of Visionary Solutions. And so I'm not sure if they offer any internships or co-ops, but if you are interested in that, I could always reach out to him for you and get you that information. So I'm going to allow Ashley to come back on and talk about the raffle one more time. But while she's doing that, students, if you have any questions for these panelists, please put them in the chat and we'll hopefully quickly answer them. If you have to hop off after Ashley speaks, feel free to hop off. Go ahead, Ashley.
Okay, so again with the raffle, I just put the link a couple minutes ago in the chat for anyone who had to hop off early. I will be selecting 3 winners tonight and emailing them later tonight. Again, it's 3 prizes. Some are UT prizes, some are just travel games, but it's a great opportunity. Thanks again for all the panelists. It was very informative to me as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Students, if you have any questions, again, feel free to put them in the chat. I don't see any so far, or feel free to unmute yourself now if you would like to ask a question and for us to hear your beautiful voice. Okay, I'm not seeing any takers.
So if the nuclear industry is on decline, does that mean that like there's not going to be any jobs in the future in nuclear engineering?
So unfortunately, both of our nuclear engineers have already hopped off the call tonight. But I mean, I think this time, especially with COVID, is a very wish-washy time for a lot of industries. So I think we kind of have to get through this period of COVID era to see what's going to happen in the future. Again, like Jay was talking about, I also think it has to do with, you know, the priorities of the government and that sort of thing as well. So I think we'll just have to see in the future what the nuclear industry does. But definitely keep in mind that there are still going to be jobs for engineers. If you want to be competitive, you need to make sure that you are getting those good grades and you are getting that experience so that you can be the best candidate when you get to the point where you're looking for a full-time job. So that's what I would focus on right now, is how do you become the best candidate when you get to that point?
Also, to add on to that, I know a lot of nuclear engineers get involved in fields outside of energy. So you could do medicine. I know there's some applications for nuclear there, and I'm sure there's some other fields. And then I'd also, Jay kind of touched on it a little bit, but if the US does get serious about committing to clean energy, nuclear most likely will be a part of that solution. And so there's the potential for a major increase in jobs in that field in the future.
Thank you so much, Eli. Any other questions for our panelists? Okay, well, if there are no other questions, I would like to say thank you so much to our panelists. Y'all have been so informative, and we really appreciate your time tonight. I hope everyone has a great evening, and stay safe, and go Vols.
Go Vols.
Go
Thank
Vols.
you.
Yeah,
Have a
thank
good
you.
night.
Thank you.